And in this week's issue, we had a story looking at whether Vermont is really still Bernie Sanders territory anymore. Joining me today is magazine managing editor David Mark. And David, you went out to Vermont and you've explored the trajectory of the Vermont state's politics. Are we seeing a little bit of a rightward movement?
Yeah, it's interesting. You think of Vermont as far left. Senator Bernie Sanders, the independent senator for a long time, two-time Democratic presidential candidate. Ben and Jerry's, a sort of hippie-ish social justice type ice cream entrepreneurs, and just a general reputation as a kind of hippie state. But interestingly, Vermont, at least in legislative elections in 2024, had the biggest rightward shift. Republicans won the most seats proportionally of any state in the country, which has what got me interested in this whole topic.
Mm-hmm. And so, Vermont historically was a Republican state.
Yeah.
But then once it made the shift to the left, it really made it dramatically.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not that Vermont is going to, say, become the new Alabama anytime soon. It's still, you might say, a solidly center-left, even more than a little bit more than center-left. But there's some real concerns up there. What I gathered is people are really concerned about tax increases. It's expensive everywhere. Inflation is kicking in on grocery prices. Also, property taxes are up way high there. Also, just some of the social initiatives that have gone on, like there's a drug rehabilitation center funded by the state that was put right in the middle of downtown Burlington, which is where all the businesses are, where a lot of the tourists flock to, and not surprisingly, it drove away a lot of businesses there. So just those kind of social issues that we hear about elsewhere, I think really get concentrated in a small population state like that.
And of course, they've had a popular Republican governor, maybe not the most conservative Republican governor, but certainly popular, starting maybe to get some legislative reinforcements.
Yeah, it's one of those funny situations where it was, for a little while, a few years, it was Vermont, Massachusetts, and Maryland, three of the deepest blue Democratic states in the country, actually had Republican governors. They've now reverted more Democratic in Massachusetts and Maryland.
Right.
But in Vermont, they've had a Republican governor for going on a decade now. And now he has enough support in the legislature among fellow Republicans that they can sustain vetoes. Basically forces Democrats to have to deal with Governor Phil Scott, the Republican. Previously, they could basically override him when they wanted to. Last year, in the April through June 2024 session, Democrats overrode 6 out of 8 vetoes, but that's gone now.
But there's no real indication that Vermont's going to become competitive for Republicans at the federal level.
No, it's not MAGA or anything remotely like that. And while Bernie Sanders, actually his vote total was somewhat down in 2024, he still won by almost 2-1, but he scored up in the 70s and 80s before. The other congressional representative, Senator Peter Welch, and the House member Becca Balin, both are Democrats, pretty strongly far left Trump critics. So the federal level is still tough, but I think this is sort of a model for Republicans, or you might say minority parties everywhere. You can make some inroads, at least at the state level, and block some of the more extreme things from happening.
Taxes can be a pretty big issue even in a blue state.
Well, absolutely. It's a motivating issue. And there's another element of Vermont is sort of its whole structure of economic ideas is starting to catch up with it. After several decades, they basically got along decently with just kind of big government liberalism, if you want to call it that, for decades. There wasn't much development allowed. Environmental issues were a high priority. And you compare that to like next door in New Hampshire, which has much more of a libertarian sense about it. No sales tax, no state income tax.
Right.
Businesses can largely do what they want. But now it's really, decades later, really led to economic stagnation in Vermont. And that's also something I was hearing is even dairy farmers, small business owners, they're like, yeah, our kids are going away. I was at a very nice restaurant in Burlington, had a nice conversation with the bartender, University of Vermont business student, saying, yeah, this is where I'm from, and I love my family and everything, but there's no opportunities here. I'm getting out of here, either going to New York or Boston or somewhere else as soon as I graduate.
Maybe Florida.
It's a lot warmer down there, at least during the winter as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
If you're following us on YouTube, you can read David's story by clicking here on the digital magazine.